Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
United moved to a point off third place as the Poolies are comfortably seen off in the midweek game at Brunton Park. We look back on an impressive performance in the 3-1 win over Hartlepool before looking ahead to another doubleheader as United travel to Rochdale, then Barrow travel to the north of the county.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old one too.
Yes, one game obviously fell victim to the weather this weekend, Dan. Last weekend.
I'll just before we get into it, I noticed you slightly sped up there because you were running out of words, and I'm glad you missed the last 4 words off the script.
I did, yes.
Because there is no such thing as a Cumbrian derby with Barrow.
Yes, only Workington.
Correct.
Workington.
And the reason is because Barrow play in the Lancashire FA Cup.
That's very true, actually. People forget that, don't they?
Yes.
Very much a historical thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
part of the Lancashire FA. And...
yeah, because it was Cumberland FA, wasn't it?
Yes, the A595 derby, as we like to call it. The end of one of the world's worst A roads, basically. So there you go. So a bit disappointing last weekend, wasn't it, Dan, that the Bradford game was off? But midweek certainly made up for it, didn't it? A great performance from the lads once again.
I'm probably one of the few who didn't mind Bradford being off because I was on a late shift at work.
Exactly. So
I might have a chance of doing the rearrange when it's announced.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see when it is because I'm hoping it's not the 7th of February because I'm away that week. It's my birthday and we're going away for a couple of days. So I'm praying it's not then and it's maybe a little bit later.
I don't think it will be because that would mean 4 Tuesdays in a row then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the league will give it a bit of consideration. You can do it as long as you do it the week of the 21st, say maybe instead.
21st or 28th week maybe.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it? But there you go. Yeah. But then again, when has the EFL ever done the sensible thing, eh?
Well, this is it.
Yeah, it is indeed. Right, before we start, obviously we have to give you a little update. Well, not an update. We've got to tell you about who is sponsoring the podcast and where you can find us on social media and download the podcast. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch for once again sponsoring the podcast this season. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. This season they'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all good podcast apps, whether it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts. Basically search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and then when a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification to tell you to download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, if there's an option to review on any of those apps, please do so. If you can give us a 5-star review, that'd be really lovely. It's a great way for us to get the message out about the podcast, and so more people can learn about it, and we can spread the word even more. You can also find us on social media, at Brunton Bugle, on Instagram and Twitter. If you go onto Facebook and search for the Brunton Bugle, click like as well, you can follow our page. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group, and also on the Buzz Back message board, the new message board that's replaced the Cumbrians.net. And also, if you want to drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Okay, Dan, so there's no news to cover this week. It's nice and quiet. And we're hoping it'll be quiet next week as well, won't we? Because it's the end of the transfer window next week. So, a quiet day would be quite nice for us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I expect it to be quiet. Unless someone amazing was offered on an unbelievable deal, I don't think anyone will be inbound. And as far as we're aware, to press, there's been no approaches for any of our players. I mean, if you believe the good old-fashioned Carlisle rumour mill, Owen Moxon joined Swansea in November.
Exactly. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
If I had a quid for every time I've been told Moxon's going to Swansea this week, I'd have enough money to buy out Steve Patt and John Nixon.
The crack I've heard is he's quite happy where he is. There probably is interest. Yes. I don't know that.
There was championship clubs watching him at Annan.
Yeah.
But we got in and said, come play a full season here. Well, if it gets revisited in the summer, so be it. It'll be deserving,
Yeah, and we'll make a few quid off it.
Yeah, we keep retweeting these various accounts that tag us. He's top of the table for passing, assists,
Tackling.
blah blah. You know, big clubs notice this stuff, so
Yeah, they're not
he will
stupid.
be getting watched. But
I've spotted Graham
you know,
Kavanagh at a couple of games recently. He's been at games.
yes,
So.
I walked past him coming into the ground the other Saturday.
Yeah, he was scouting for Bristol City last season, wasn't he? All that. Did wasn't he
Yeah,
the person who actually scouted Tanner? I seem to remember. I might be wrong on that one, but yeah, he's definitely done some stuff for Bristol City in recent times. So I
yeah,
imagine he's probably doing something for a championship level club at least. So yeah, but yeah, there's an inevitability that he's not going to be staying here for years and years and years. I think we all know that deep down, but I'm pretty sure he'll stay to the end of the season. Touch wood,
yeah.
probably curse
And
him.
do you know something? Even if an offer came in late, I would like to think we'd say we want a loan back for the season.
Yeah, only problem with that is we're at the limit on loans, aren't we? On 5, aren't we? So
Yeah, true, true.
that's where it becomes a bit of a challenge, unfortunately.
But having said that, backs out until April, so you can get around it.
Yeah, I suppose
you know.
so. Right, well, let's talk about Loan Watch then, Dan. Not a huge amount to cover this week. A fairly quiet week, actually, in the end.
No surprise given the weather.
We'll talk about the main one that actually something was involved in. The person actually had some involvement at the weekend. Lewis Bell, no game for him. Gretna didn't have a game. They play. They've got a trip to Tranent Juniors in the Lowland League. Where's Tranent at? I'm going to get you to look that up while we're talking here because it's one of those ones, isn't it? It's a wonderful name, but no idea where it is. Sam Fishburn, there was no league fixture for
Tranent's in East Lothian.
East Lothian, right, okay.
Yes.
Right, okay. No league fixture for Sam this weekend because Morpeth's trip to Bamber Bridge was a victim of the cold weather. He did get a 10-minute appearance in the Northumberland Senior Cup against Newcastle Benfield. Newcastle Benfield, the team that they've changed name a lot down the years, haven't they?
Yeah.
The Newcastle Blue Star at one point as well, I think. I seem to remember.
The Blue Star story is ridiculous. We would have to do a full podcast to cover their name
Tommy
changes.
Cassidy was involved there.
Yeah,
they've
they've had money before, they haven't.
Right, okay. Yeah, so you got a 10-minute appearance in that. They won 1-0, so they're into the semi-finals. This weekend, they have got a home tie against big spending Radcliffe. So that'll be Nicky Adams and Luke Joyce heading up that way, won't they, for that game? Dan Hill at Cleatormore, no game for them again this weekend. Their trip to Runcorn Town was called off again because of a frozen pitch. They've not played a game since Boxing Day when they lost 4-2. I think it was to Hawker Old Boys. That's quite a wait for a game, isn't it? Especially at that level, they start to pile up. It becomes a real challenge, doesn't it? Up next for them is a home tie with Backup Borough this weekend. Was Backup Borough the team that Ian Stevens ended his career at, I think? I've got that stuck in my head for some reason.
My specialist subject is only Ian Stevens at Carlisle United.
Well, he carried on till he was about 41, didn't he? I think he was playing like non-league Lancashire circuit till that late. Well, Max Kilsby, we haven't talked about him yet because we saved the best to last. Another enjoyable weekend for Peter Murphy and his men as they beat Bonnyrigg Rose 4-0 at Galabank. But it was a great day for Max Kilsby as well, wasn't it? He grabbed his second goal of his loan spell with a smart left-footed finish just inside the area. Have you seen this goal, Dan? It's a lovely finish. Really, really well taken. I think he's playing left-back a lot for them at the moment as well. They're up to 4th in the table. And they could actually put some distance between themselves and the chasing pack in the playoff places because they could beat 5th place East Fife this weekend. So, big game that, isn't it, for Aaron? That one. If you're not making your way down to Rochdale, maybe get yourself to Aaron and watch Max in action. But I mean, if you're not going to Rochdale, what's wrong with you? Because there's already 1,100 going, isn't there?
All right.
Sorry, I forgot the fact that you are actually going to that one this weekend.
Yes, no, I'm in Germany this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
you are away, to be fair.
Yeah. Benfield are just Newcastle Benfield, by the way.
Ah, right, okay. I wasn't sure because
there's
so many.
I just looked up Tranent on the map. It's just east of Edinburgh.
Ah, right.
So
okay.
the other side of Edinburgh, if you come from this way.
I mean, even for Gretna, that's not much of a fun drive, is it? That's going to be a bit of a trek.
No.
Okay. That's the loan stuff covered then, I think, isn't it? Yeah, all the loan watch players covered. So let's talk about the match. Carlisle United 3, Hartlepool United 1. I mean, that one's a lucky one as well, wasn't it? It's probably not like even the best performance of the season, Dan, but it just felt so comfortable, didn't it? And it just feels a bit of a... a bit of a joy to watch them at the moment, isn't it? The way we're playing, they're playing with confidence, they're playing with personality. That's the one thing that stands out to me. This is a squad that we've had squads in recent seasons. I think back to the first half of last season, and you couldn't really have cared less what happens to them. They were, no one was playing with pride. No one, was playing with a bit of nastiness and a bit of belief. This team has personality, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, just watching some of our play down the flanks, especially the left side, where Armour and Mellish seem to be, have creating a telepathic understanding almost now, and even J.K. Gordon was getting involved with them, which the more he plays, the more that'll come, and there was times when our passing was just bamboozling Hartlepool. I mean, Hartlepool have got a bit of an unsettled defence at the moment because they've got a couple of recent signings just slotted in, and I think that showed early in the game. They seemed to be all over the place.
Well, that Dodds was playing right wing back, and actually Sterry is obviously he's a very good player, he's their first choice one, but he's been out injured, I think, a bit, and he's sort of, they're just. I think what it sounds like Curl took it out of Sterry's hands. I think he felt I'd rather use him as a sub in this game and have him fit to play Colchester the weekend, which is a big game for them. Obviously, team down near the bottom. So I'm not saying he played a weaker side against us, but I think he felt I need to manage this carefully because I don't want to lose him for longer, basically. Knowing how good we are down the left side as well, obviously. But yeah, they struggled defensively. It didn't just look hard. Before we get on to talk about the Blues and the game itself, I didn't think they looked that bad a side, to be honest. I thought in attack they had a few handy players, actually. Midfield's where they got swamped a bit by us. I think that's where we showed our superiority as much as anything.
I quite like the lad who scored, Umar. He's scored something like 10 in 25 in a struggling team, which is always a sign of a half decent player. And he was at Wealdstone last season, and I text Moose, who was kit man at Wealdstone, and asked him about him. And he said he's a big, cumbersome lad, but he's strong as an ox and will try all day long. He will not give in. And he came across as that, and I'll tell you something, I'd have a look at him,
Yeah, if he was available, if there was a chance to sign him in the summer, he's certainly one worth looking at. There's a player you could mould almost into a better player. I'm not sure how old he is, but he looks a handy little player. I was really impressed with him, actually.
I think he's about mid-20s max.
Mid-20s, yeah, okay, well, yeah, he might be worth one looking. But yeah, like I said...
25 on the April's Fool's Day.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's an interesting... I just felt... I felt that they're going to struggle a bit defensively and they need to change that keeper. We'll talk about him in a minute. He was dross. But, I looked at it. If I was a Hartlepool, I'd look at that, I'd think to myself... I don't think we're that far away from being an okay side, but what they need to do is, the key thing for them is that Umera, whatever you call him, he'll get them goals against clubs around them, you'd think, in games. Yeah, that's going to be key to them, isn't it? Obviously, he got one against Rochdale last weekend as well, I think, in their win. So yeah. They're
limited, but I'd say they've got enough to get out of it.
Yes, but the problem is...
Curl, obviously, he's done it a few times before. Yeah. So
the problem for them is Gillingham and Colchester have probably signed a lot better than most. They haven't really signed in terms of quality.
On the flip side, Crawley and also Harrogate, who seem to be free falling a bit.
Well,
in the mix.
The rumour is that Hartlepool are looking at Luke Armstrong from Harrogate, aren't they? Because they're reportedly after a player who's in double figures for goals in. I mean, I wonder, is that what they really need? I feel like they needed a bit of youth and energy in that midfield. The midfield got played around a bit easily. But anyway, we've talked enough about Hartlepool there. Let's talk about the Blues. And Dan, were you particularly surprised to see an unchanged 11 for this one? I don't think anyone was, were they really? I think we all expected it. Slight tweak to the formation, though, wasn't there? Jordan Gibson dropped from being sort of a winger back into the midfield three, which he hasn't really played probably since, thinking back, maybe... October, maybe, is the last time he really played that for us. He's been playing more as a winger since then. We'll go into a bit more detail on his performance later because I genuinely think it was one of his best for a long time. But that's the only real tweak in terms of the team. On the bench, obviously, there was a change. Toby was the unlucky man, dropping out for Joe Garner to come back in. And yes, he certainly made an impact, shall we say? And we'll talk about that as well in the talking points in a little while. So I mean, atmosphere-wise, Dan, I genuinely think this is one of the best Tuesday night atmospheres I've been in.
Yeah, some people may not be aware, but basically a lot of the young lads who go in the Warwick Road end organised a supporters march, starting from the station all the way down Warwick Road. They had a drum, they were singing, and there's pictures circulating of it's like a swarm in the middle of the Warwick Road end. And the best thing about it for me is seeing young lads getting down to the local team. Not on about Man United, not on about Liverpool, not on about Newcastle. Young lads buzzing because they're going to the match to watch their local team. Absolutely. And, brilliant, and you could hear them a lot more. I think if you look, they seem to be standing further forward.
Yeah.
So the noise was coming out a bit more, which was...
Further forward, that, as you call it, a swarm, it's like that sort of huddle, the gathering of them there. It's got bigger and bigger as the season's gone on. It's almost so a load of them are going down and having a great time, and they're saying to the mates, come on, come down to the Carlisle game this weekend. Get yourself down
I'm looking forward to seeing how busy it is against Barrow. I really am.
I genuinely think it could be really busy if that game. I reckon we should be pushing for a 7,000 crowd for that easily. I mean, they're going to bring... Yeah. It looks like none of their fans have handed their tickets back, which actually surprised me. I thought a few might have done, but because it's not an easy place to get to from Barrow to Carlisle, is it, on a midweek?
It wouldn't stop us.
No, it certainly wouldn't. Full credit to them. I genuinely thought one of the best atmosphere. I mean, I wasn't at the Rochdale game last season, which by all accounts was a good atmosphere, the home game, but that for a Tuesday night was the best I've been in a long time. I contrast it with I think back to the Port Vale game last season, where we lost 3-1, and I went to that one. I was up for a few days. I think it was around about my birthday, and I'd come up to with my wife Megan, and we thought we'll stay the extra day, the Tuesday, and we'll go to the Carlisle game and drive back afterwards. And even afterwards, when we were leaving, Megan's like, "Why do you come for these midweek games like this?" I was like, "I don't know. I genuinely don't know." And now I'm like, so glad that I'm actually going to be going next week. It's incredible. So anyway, we'll talk more about the atmosphere and stuff. I think the club really needs to get behind those kids and help them make the atmosphere better. They do need to make sure they behave as well. That's undoubtedly the club will have slight concerns with the smoke bomb that was thrown on, but that was literally the only thing I could pick out in terms of that. I did enjoy the chat that I've heard from some people that their keeper was getting called a grebo, which is an insult I have not heard in about 20 years, I think, since I was probably in Carlisle bus station wearing some sort of band hoodie, getting abused from someone. But yes, I know, brilliant stuff from them. Should we talk about the chances and the goals then, Dan? Well, I mean, could not have asked for a better start, could we?
No, not at all. Not at all. We really took off, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, the first goal, obviously. First goal started with a throw-in right by our own corner flag, didn't it? So Mellish sends a long throw forward. It bounces up, and first of all, Gordon shows some great strength to hold off his marker. And then he gets there, Hartley goes to try and win the header, misjudges it, and Gordon nips in, takes it, gets away down the wing, lays it for Gibson, who then plays it to Armour on the overlap. And what I noticed, if you watch back on the video, I'll watch this back, Kristian Dennis is absolutely bursting a gut to get into the box for that, because he'd obviously come back to help with in terms of defending with the throw-in. And if you watch, he sprints right in to get just into the box, and then his Armour gets it on the overlap. He moves again. His movement is brilliant, one of the best strikers in terms of movement for us I've seen in a long time. And obviously we saw that in this game as well. So yeah, obviously we got a corner from that, and then Moxon takes it. Great movement once again from Dennis to get to the near post, flicks on a header, keeper parries it, and Feeney's there to put it into the empty net, isn't he?
Yeah, Feeney, he just literally had to stab it, and it was in. But no, it was good pressure in about the box, and bingo, 1 up. And great start.
We've got to give a mention as well to the number 23 for Hartlepool, up against John Mellish on this corner. He he was literally basically trying to bear hug and not looking at the ball at all. Stop Mellish getting anywhere, essentially, wasn't he? Trying to hold him. And then as the ball was parried, because he was so busy holding Mellish, he could have cleared that ball comfortably, couldn't he? He should have got to it before Feeney, really. And or at least got a block in on Feeney trying to score. And because he was too busy holding Mellish, Feeney's got an easy tap in. And Mellish, if you watch the GoPro footage of the goal, it's on the club's Twitter feed, certainly lets him know what an idiot he's been, doesn't he? With his reaction to that. So yeah, that was enjoyable. Looking at this, in terms of after that, chances-wise, Gordon nearly scored a brilliant overhead kick, didn't he, as well? He had a good go at that. It created a chance for himself from a Gibson low cross that he flicked up into the air. I mean, they're key.
I think that with that overhead kick, I think he just didn't quite connect fully with it.
Yeah, couldn't get the power.
He got his foot on it, but he didn't get it wrapped around it. And he didn't have the power, but, fair play to him for even trying it,
Yeah. And then their keeper was appalling in terms of crosses and handling. Made some smart reaction saves, but there was one point where Armour obviously got an overlap on the left, whips the ball into the near post, and he panics because he thinks it's going in, doesn't he? Spills it. Dennis nips in. He actually saves it, and if you watch, when he makes the save, if you look on the Pitchside Blues thing, he saves it and palms it down onto his own foot. And then it hits the post, and then he manages to grab the loose ball. From there, what was the next chance? Let's talk about the second goal then, Dan. Again, lovely little bit of interchange passing on the left from us. Callum Guy plays one of those great balls into the channel that you just know John Mellis is going to chase, don't you? He's not going to give it up. He'll go right to the byline. And he did get to the byline, just kept it in. Plays in a low ball, which Peter Hartley, for them, makes an absolute hash of. It falls to Dennis. Now, when you watch this on the main highlights, and even on the Pitchside Blues and the GoPro, I don't think it does justice, does it, Dan, to what a good finish this was from Dennis. Lovely flicked with the outside of the boot, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, his touches and finishes are just getting better, I mean, the one the other week, that got the goal just before half-time. This, he's becoming the complete 18-yard box striking at the moment, isn't he? Flicks, headers, which we'll come on to. It's just get better and better. Yeah, to think some people wanted to get rid in the summer. Eh?
And some people were still talking about the fact that, he's not that good, he doesn't do that much now. He's got 17 goals this season, for crying out loud, in all competitions.
He's an old-fashioned number 9, and number 9's job is to score goals. Yeah. And that's what he's doing.
But you know what, as well, last couple of games, his work rate has been fantastic. Really, really has. But we'll go into him on the talking points. Unfortunately, then, we basically gifted them a way back into the game, didn't we? And it was a sight rarer than Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and Shergar having a tea party together. It was indeed an Owen Moxon mistake that led to the goal, wasn't it? Just a long punt forward, almost straight from the kickoff. Mellish wins the first head. It comes down to Moxon, and I still can't work out what he thought he was doing. I've heard some people suggest that Huntington was to blame for jumping out of the way of the ball, but he fired it straight at Huntington. And there's no way if Huntington had tried to take a touch there, they would have been in as well anyway.
Yeah.
So the best chance he had was to let it go through and hope Holy could come and get it, but he was under hit in the end. The Mera sneaked in, and it was a good finish, to be fair. Really, really good.
I think it was a cross between under hit and over hit.
It was a weird one.
If that makes sense, because it was over hit for Huntington, but under hit for Hawley.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I wonder if he's just misjudged it. Lado's come in and he's took his chance, hasn't he?
Yeah, he just wasn't really aware what was around him, but he certainly made up for it later on, didn't he? Yeah, other than that, there was only a couple more chances. I think Dennis had a shot from the edge of the area that was well saved, and there was one where a low free kick he couldn't quite get enough on to put it in. Into the second half, Hartlepool actually, I thought, started the second half quite brightly. First 15 minutes they looked better than they had done for most of the first half. But I never ever felt like, we're going to.
I don't think we were ever uncomfortable, were we?
No, 100%. And there's people around me saying, I need to make a change, need to do this. I was like, no. The chat at half time was, if we get another, the game's done. Yeah. And we were saying, like, let them have their 15 minutes, sit back, soak it up. once they realised they can't do anything, hit them. And that's exactly what we did pretty much. The one chance they did have was actually a really good header from, was it Jack Hamilton, isn't it? The lad who's on loan from Livingston, who was at Arbroath last season. He looked a good player at Arbroath as well. Good header from a long kick down that was actually really well saved by Holy, palming it behind for a corner. And then United just stepped up again, didn't they? I think at that point. That's the point we're like, right, let's stop being silly here. I'm trying to find my notes here. I keep losing them. Then after that, there was a scramble, wasn't there, from a Gordon cross from the right that the keeper came in it and he punched it against Dennis, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then it was kind of weird because everyone stopped as if the ball had gone out and Dennis hooked it and it stayed in. The linesman didn't flag for it going out. I think it had gone out. I think he should have given it as a throw-in. But, sorry, corner. Goal kick. I'll get there in the end. Yeah, and then following on from that, Callum Guy, what a shot this was, Dan. What a goal this would have been if it had gone in.
Yeah.
So essentially brings a high ball down into the air, takes one touch and then absolutely smashes it. We say it's a half volley up on the bounce, or... I always wonder, what do you describe as a half volley? This is something that's always up for debate, isn't it?
A half volley, to me, is when you're meeting it on the bounce.
So when literally as it hits the ground, or as it
from there upwards. So
right. So it probably would be, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah. If a bounce has happened, it's a half volley.
Yeah.
Whether you hit it as it's bouncing, or you let it bounce, come up, and then hit it.
Yeah.
They're half volleys for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a half volley then. A half volley from about 20, 25 yards. In fact, no, it was probably about 25, 30, wasn't it? Dipped so much at the last minute, and fair play, the keeper pushed it over for a really good save, and then came Dennis's second goal, and this was just a lovely team move, wasn't it, all round?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis actually starts the move. That's the thing you kind of forget in this. Huntington heads out a ball from the Hartlepool right, and it comes to Dennis, and the easiest thing would be just to try and flick it on and get it further away. But actually what he does, he picks out Gibson with a pass, doesn't he, with the header, essentially. Gibson gets the ball, lovely crossfield ball to Moxon. By this point, Dennis has got himself right up the pitch. He's basically through on goal. The ball to him. He doesn't quite control it right, can't really get it onto his left foot, so takes a touch, plays it out to Moxon. He sets himself and the ball into the box is an absolute beauty, isn't it? I've seen Hartley getting a lot of stick from the Hartlepool fans for his involvement in this, but for me, it's just a brilliant ball into the box, isn't it?
Yeah, when Dennis gets it sort of outside on the edge of the area, he obviously has a quick look, but he thinks, no, I can play it wide, get myself back where I'm good at, and cross comes, great header, bang, Warwick Road end goes crazy.
I mean, you mentioned about that swarm earlier, but the video showing them celebrating this goal is brilliant, isn't it? It's just they're just basically going absolutely nuts, aren't they? It's a proper trying to think, like at a gig when you see like a mosh pit properly going, isn't it? That's what it looked like. It was fantastic to see. And that was pretty much wrapped up the game, didn't it, really? I mean, Dennis was given a bit of time to try and get his hat-trick, wasn't he? And did have a chance that the keeper really saved brilliantly. And then, Joel Senior was so close to getting a goal. That would have been a lovely touch as well, wouldn't it, if he could have got that from the follow-up. But unfortunately, again, keeper makes a good save. And from that point, we pretty much saw the game out, didn't we, really? A good, convincing 3 points and puts us just 1 point behind Northampton in the table, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes it very exciting as well. And obviously,
those of you who follow me on Twitter will see a little sequence of events that happened around this game. Yeah. Using the Footballology app, I always look at what games I've been to on a date. And I had only watched Carlisle twice before on the 24th of January.
Yeah.
Both times we had won 3-1.
Yeah.
Last time, Lordy and Stevens getting a hat-trick against Bristol Rovers in 98, I think it was.
Yes.
So I thought I'd have a little bet, and I did Carlisle to win 3-1, with Kristian Dennis scoring all three at 200 to 1. That is one of the most unlucky bets I've had.
Mind you, if he'd scored the hat-trick goal, you'd have been annoyed anyway, because it would have been 4-1 instead, wouldn't it? So
yeah. But he nearly had the first as well.
He
didn't
did, to be fair. He did. So, yeah. Sod's law, that one, isn't it? But there you go.
Yeah.
Right, well, we've got a 60-second review to give you guys. And this one comes from young Michael, who lives in Formby. So let's hear what young Michael had to say.
Yeah, it was an all-round brilliant performance, brilliant result. I kind of thought when we went 2-0 up that we'd go on and win by 4 or 5. That sadly wasn't to be. When they scored, just kind of made us feel a little bit uncomfortable and took our rhythm away a little bit. But once we got the third, it was all right. It's another game where Dennis got man of the match for scoring 2, but you could have given it to most players who were out on the pitch. It was just a really solid team performance, and we were very fluid. One player would close someone down and go out of position, and someone would just instinctively drop into their position. There was a lot of running, which was probably helped by not having the game on Saturday. But yeah, just all round great result, great performance.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good point about the man of the match. I mean, obviously Dennis gets the headlines with the brace, but I mean, Callum Guy had a brilliant game. Jordan Gibson had his best game in ages. Jack Armour was up and down. John Mellish was his usual road runner self. You could literally have picked
Paul Huntington won every single header he faced pretty much, didn't he? You're right. You could have picked pretty much anybody to be man of the match for this game. I mean, I'd argue. I mean, we'll touch on him first before we touch on Dennis. And J.K. Gordon, I think he had a better game in this match than he did in the game against Newport. I mean, he was certainly a lot more involved. It was a different sort of game, I guess, because we had a bit more of the ball in the good areas. But I think he was better in this game than he was against Newport.
Yeah, probably contribution was more.
Yeah.
But that'll be him getting more used to us, because the more he plays, the more he gets used. And, he maybe didn't quite have as much goal threat.
No.
His all-round play was more contributory.
He had a different role, didn't he? He was playing as a part of a 2 rather than a wide and a 3, didn't he? I think he enjoyed wide and the 3 because he can sort of come in wide a bit more, but he kind of has to sort of drift out wide from his position when you're playing as a striker, don't you? So it's kind of different. People sort of underlap you, don't they, and take up the position you would go into. So yeah, no, I thought another good performance from him. And I mean, it's early days, Dan, but it's looking like another good bit of business from Simone Gregg, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Little gem. I said this, I know some people tried to compare it to Tyrese Omatoya recently, more on him in a bit. But for me, you can't compare the two. This lad looks like he potentially is going to have a career if he keeps going the way he is, at least at championship level. If he can sort of, he looks like he's a bit too good already for League Two, doesn't he? That's the impression I get.
Yeah, I mean, like we said when he signed, he's been on the bench for Palace a couple of times.
Yeah,
he's been playing well in European games for their under-21s. No disrespect to Jack Stretton, but he's a level above.
He looks an upgrade. He definitely looks an upgrade already. Let's talk about the Dennis the Menace then. Deservedly man of the match, arguably. As Mike might disagree slightly there, but he's now the joint top scorer in the division. And as a man who's got a bet on him to be top scorer in the division, I'm very pleased about that. Proper exemplar performance, wasn't it? I mean, I'm Joe Gardner sitting on the bench watching that. I'm thinking, I've got to fight on to get in the starting 11 here, haven't I? Because the way he played, I mean, involved in all 3 goals and looking to not to get a hat-trick. And his work rate as well. I mean, I always think his work rate's been pretty good, but it feels like it's stepped up a little bit since the start of January.
Yeah, definitely. There was a little period when he was being slightly nursed through niggles.
Yeah.
And I think that little bit of non-game has just let it heal up nicely. And, we've got the ready-made replacement in.
Yeah.
If he is having a hard game, Joe Garner can come on for 20, 30 minutes. And there'll be the odd game where we maybe start Garner and bring Dennis on and vice versa. It's very much like Gordon Patrick, And we're interchangeable, which can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. You mentioned about Jordan Gibson was potentially a contender for man of the match. I mean, it's got to be his best game since probably about October, isn't it? Really?
Certainly in recent weeks, he looked to be enjoying himself, buzzing about, which is what he's good at. And there was 1 or 2 times when I think it was him, Senior, and Guy were just little triangles on the right hand side, and no, they were good.
He kind of feels like that number 10 in a midfield free role suits him better than being out on wide at the moment, I think. He gets a bit more of the ball. He gets a bit more involved. He was spraying it about the pitch. He still was drifting out wide and getting a few crosses in and helping Senior out when he could. But he was turning up on the left as well occasionally, and it made it difficult for teams to pick him up. And we just want to see a bit more of that, don't we? So, personally, you may disagree, but I'd like to see Simo sticking with him in that midfield three for now.
Yeah, it looked good. Our fullbacks get that forward, then we can sort of play him as a 10 almost, So, and also if we do play him as a 10, when he does get tired, which he will do, playing all these games, we've got someone like Devitt on the bench who can come on for 10, 15 minutes to close it out.
Or Coleman.
Yeah.
He came on later on in this game.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for Jack Robinson. I really do. Because he's going to be waiting a while to get a chance at left wing back, isn't he? The way Jack Armour's playing at the moment.
Yeah.
Wow, what another great performance from him. He really has stepped up.
Again, I think it's one of them where if we're maybe 2-0 up with 15 minutes to go, with the run of fixtures, it maybe be good to maybe give Robinson 15 minutes.
Yeah, possibly.
Just to get him some football and give Jack Armour a little rest, Yeah,
definitely. I just feel it's just everything about him just so solid and competent, isn't it? Defensively, he's really sound. He's got the energy to get up and down the pitch. His balls into the box are causing problems as well. His overlapping is brilliant. He's not been phased at all by the challenge of taking on that role, has he?
No, not at all.
Yeah, and that's just the quality of him. He's doesn't turn 22 until April, is it? I think. He's got a long career ahead of him. I think it's fair to say the way he's playing. So well done to Jack again. Someone who's obviously at the start of his Carl United career. Really, it's been stop-start. Well, it was a start and then a long stop, but it's starting again. Joel Senior, he's starting to get those fitness levels up, isn't he? He didn't look like he tired at all in this game.
No, he was up and down, and like I already mentioned, him, Gibson, and Guy were knocking it about nicely a couple of times, and he's only got to get stronger. And obviously, Jack Ellis is back on the grass seemingly. Sounds like he'll be back in a couple of weeks, so there'll be good competition between them two. We've got solid competition all over the pitch, haven't we?
Yeah, we really have, and that's the thing to be pleased about, and the fact that we don't really need to add anything else at the moment. Touch wood, hopefully no injuries, but we'll wait and see. Well, let's wrap things up and let's talk about Joe Garner's fourth debut for the club. Dan, great reception for him. Yeah,
always going to be.
Lads in the Warwick singing the Dave Clark 5. Glad all over Joey Garner chant, weren't they? Yeah. Most of the rest of the ground doing the old-fashioned "Ooh, Joey Garner" chant, weren't they? So
we'll soon get it round.
Yeah, I like the "Ooh, Joey Garner" one. You probably associate more with Georgia Garner, don't you? So
yes,
definitely for you.
Or Keith Walwyn.
Keith Walwyn. Nice little cameo there from him, wasn't it? Though. Looked lively, looked sharp. Doesn't look like there's any fitness issues there. And he's not played a huge amount for Fleetwood this season. But, he never was like a lightning fast player, but he's nippy over a few yards, isn't he? He gets away, and there's a couple of times where if he'd held his line a little bit better, he would have been in on goal. And, come on, let's talk about the tackle then. Come on.
Well, when it happened in real time, I
thought the refs missed this. I thought first.
That was the opposite. I thought he caught it clearly.
My first thought was he's got the ball, but he's gone through the player's leg to get to it. He probably should get booked for that. But when the ref gave nothing, and I looked and thought, well, actually, he's only a few yards away. So if the ref's not giving it, then it must be fine. Play on. And, obviously nothing came of it in the end. And, you feel for the lad if he's got a bad injury. You don't know. But to be fair, it was the radio Teesside or BBC T's commentators did let a little hint away, didn't they, that apparently he's been nursing an injury to his left ankle for a while, apparently. So that's probably just tweaked that as much as anything in the way he's rolled.
Be interesting to see if he's in 18 this week.
Yeah. Well, when Curl did say, didn't he? Curl didn't complain about it, to be fair, afterwards. He said, should have just got rid of the ball quicker. No issue with it at all. So, but that's what you want to see, a 34, 35-year-old running and chasing back and getting stuck in and winning his tackle and getting us going again. But yeah, he certainly looks like he's going to be a good addition, doesn't he? It's early days, obviously. It's only 10 minutes in, but I think, I think most teams looking at that, starting facing up against Dennis and Gordon, thinking I've got a tough time here. Then you look to the bench and there's Patrick and Garner waiting to come on. You're not going to enjoy that, are you? I think it's fair to say.
Not at all.
No, definitely not. I think that wraps it up then, Dan. We're not going to do a lead round because it's been a sort of mixed bag this week, isn't it, really, in terms of things. There's been a lot called off, so there you go. Right, we'll take a short break and then we'll be back with the second half of the show.
Hi, it's Morgan Feeney and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Bootle's finest there. The man who scored the opening goal at the weekend, Morgan Feeney. Welcome back to the second half of the show. Yes, so before we go to the Behind Enemy Lines section, Mike has done a question for us, Dan. So should we do that first?
Yeah.
Here's what Mike's question of the week is.
So a player that's played for both teams this week is Connor Brown. How many games did he play for the Blues?
That's Connor Brown. It's also played for Carlisle and Barrow rather than Rochdale.
Where was he on loan? Was it Watford he was on loan for?
I think he was on loan from Watford. Oh no, wasn't that... We had another Brown on loan, didn't we? Which was Wes Brown's brother. I think he was from Watford. Although it might be the same.
No, he was at Oldham when he came on loan.
He was at Oldham, yes. He was there. I can't remember the other Brown that we had on loan, but it was Wes Brown's brother was the one from Watford. That's a good question. I'm going to go...
What year was he?
Was he not in the Kavanagh season, I think? I'm going to go 9. 9 appearances I'm going to go for.
I'll go 7 then.
7, right. Cut the difference there, but it'll be 8 now. No, look. So here's the answers from Mike.
And it was 8 games.
Oh, you were kidding me! Right down the middle of the two of us. Incredible.
I knew it wasn't many.
No, I knew. I was fairly sure he hadn't got to double figures because the thing is, back in the day, the 3-month loans, isn't it? Or the 1 and 2 month loans as well. So there you go. Right, it's the second half of the show. Up first, the Behind Enemy Lines section. We've only got one this week. We didn't have time to sort of Barrow one as well. We'll try and do one for later in the season when we play them down at their place. This week's guest was Tom from the All Dale, aren't we? Rochdale podcast. This was not the cheeriest of chats I've ever had this season, bless him. What did we talk about? Where's it all gone wrong for a club that, only a few years ago seemed like as a model club for a low budget club to succeed in, League One. Where's it all gone wrong there? Whether Jim Bentley's the right man for the job. A little bit of a chat about Simo's time in charge at Spotland, because it didn't go particularly well when he was there in his first managerial job. So here's the chat I had with Tom earlier this week. So on this week's Behind Enemy Lines section, we're speaking to Tom from the All Dale, aren't we, Rochdale AFC podcast. Tom, this is the second attempt we've tried to record this because we had a few technical issues earlier, but I did say to you before, I'll repeat what I said again. We always say, how are you doing on this point in the chat, but it can't be much fun being a Rochdale fan this season.
No, I think it's probably been the most testing season I've had supporting the club. There's not much to be happy about at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to the guys from the RochdaleAFC.com podcast, both last season and earlier this season. I think they've finished recording now. They don't do any episodes anymore. But just for the sake of a catch-up for any of our listeners who didn't hear those episodes, what on earth has gone wrong at Rochdale in the last few years? Because you were always looked upon as a really well-run club that was able to punch above its weight in League One for so long. And now you're in danger of dropping out the league for the first time since you joined 102 years ago.
God, how long have you got, to be fair? I think you can go quite in depth on this, but just to kind of give you a brief overhaul, I think obviously in our years of success, when we were a successful football, like you say, we're punching above our weight. At the time, Keith Hill was revolutionary with his sports science and et cetera, et cetera. And I think we had an edge on a lot of teams at the time because it was something that was very new to the game, especially at our level of football. And I think that's what gave us an edge for those past 7 or 8 years or so. And we enjoyed our success going up and then came back down, and then Keith came back again and we went back up again, and then we had a steady period in League One, towards pushing towards the the playoffs in League One. And then I think it's just been a gradual decline. There's things been going on behind the scenes. Obviously we've had COVID, which I think really impacted a club like Rochdale. We don't get massive crowds, we really don't. We've tried multiple schemes to get fans through the door and it's not worked. So I think that the financial ramifications of COVID had a massive impact on us. On the back end of COVID we got relegated, so just had to sell all of our main players, and our sellable assets had to be sold to keep the club afloat. Then, whilst all this is going on, we had the hostile takeover business with the club, which that really used all of our resources and our focus and our time towards that. We brought in a manager when we dropped back down to League Two in Robbie Stockdale, but it's all been a complete farce. Leading up to that, actually in the pre-season, BBM, who was our manager at the time, we'd just been relegated. He'd said that he was happy to stay on board and work with the club and go again. Started signing down players to contracts, and then within a week or so later, he'd handed his notice in and said he wanted to leave. So we're midway through a transfer window with no identity of what we're doing. We had to wait another 2 or 3 weeks to get a manager in, which was Robbie Stockdale. I think as soon as he got in, we were placed under a transfer embargo. But despite all that, we tried our best at the start of last season, and things were looking a bit positive. To be fair, we were up at the edges of the playoffs, but then it all just started to go wrong. Couldn't really get any run of results together, any serious form. Managed to get a few results here and there and staved off any worries of relegation that we'd had. But there's just been so many things, I think there's been poor recruitment, poor choices from the club. We've tried to push this fan-owned agenda model again, which, there's very few clubs that do it at this level now. And the ones that do, have a much bigger backing than us. And as I say, putting a share price out every year for a club like Rochdale in a place like Rochdale as well, fans haven't got that kind of money to keep putting into the club to try and keep us afloat. And now I think they've seen the sense of it all, and they want to move away from the fan-owned model, and they want to get an investor in and get all this money. But investors like that don't just come around. They don't just come around every. They just want to throw all the money into it and get nothing back in return, really.
Yeah. And you're always at risk, aren't you, as well, with, as you saw with the hostile takeover, someone coming in who maybe doesn't have the best intentions as well. You've
exactly.
got to keep an eye out for those people.
Yeah, and then focusing on the playing side of things, I think a lot of fans at the end of last season would have seen sense in our manager being sacked. At the time, we hadn't had a great season. Yes, okay, in the end, we managed to stave off any chance of relegation or anything like that, and we finished comfortably enough in the end. But I think a lot of fans felt that as it was time for a clean break to get somebody new in, a bit more experience behind them, and have another go at it this season. But we didn't. We gave Robbie the start of this season. We were given an improved transfer budget to start the season. He's gone and spent that money, and clearly gone and spent that money quite poorly on the recruitment. And then, it's a tough one. Where do you judge it? We'd only had 4 games at the start of this season, but we were absolutely abject. And he was sacked. I think we'd scored 1 goal in 4 games or something in the league, sacked. Then we had the hunt for trying to find a manager for 2 or 3 weeks. We brought in Jim Bentley. Again, this is my personal opinion. A manager that's biggest achievement has been keeping Morecambe in the Football League. The following season, when he left Morecambe, they got promoted under Derek Adams. So it's a very tough one. I do feel for him because he's had to deal with what he's had. He was managed to bring in 1 player before the end of the window at the start of the season, and from all accounts, we've got no money now. It's very hard for us to change anything on the playing side of things at the moment. Until we get players out, but obviously they don't want to leave. They've all been tied down to big contracts on good money, and they're looking out for themselves. I wish they'd have a bit more respect and look at the position, and if they don't want to be here, please leave, and if they're not bothered, please leave. But it's not the way it works, and I think we all know that sometimes.
Yeah, there is a real danger, isn't there, of you guys dropping that league? Because I looked at the league table before we recorded, because obviously we didn't play this weekend. So I knew we were still 4th. That's the only thing I was too worried about. But I looked at, obviously, you lost to Hartlepool this weekend, which, that's a huge result as well. But even taking away Hartlepool, it must be a concern when you see the likes of Gillingham and Colchester are splashing the cash to make sure they stay in the league. And it almost feels like it's a bum fight between yourselves, Hartlepool, and maybe Crawley and Harrogate might get dragged into it, but it feels like Gillingham and Colchester might pull themselves away, and I suppose that's where the worry is for you guys.
I think we're a dead cert now, and I'm not just trying to be negative for negative's sake. I think we're a dead cert. You look at you look at Hartlepool, they've recruited well this month, got a bit of money behind them, and they've been backed, and they've brought in some good additions. And also Gillingham, multi-millionaire owner has come in and bumped them up. We just haven't got that option or that capability to do that. We're shopping in a completely different market to some of these teams that are around us. And if you look at our results against the bottom six, it's a really, really poor record. I think the only one we've actually got anything out of is Colchester, which we managed to beat them away at the start of the season when they were just as poor as us. But yeah, the football's been very hard to watch. There's no cohesion. There's no clear plan. There's been moments where you felt like things might get back on track a bit, but there's just no consistency to what we're trying to do.
You mentioned obviously there's not been too many highlights there, but one must be the recent win over Bradford where you were 1-0 down and came back to win 2-1 with 2 goals for Ian Henderson. How important is he in terms of your chance of staying up? Because he's one thing that maybe other clubs haven't got around about where you are. He's a goal scorer. He's going to get goals, even in a poor team.
Yeah, like I say, he is a goal scorer, and like I say, I was there at the Bradford game. He's a poacher, and that's what he does. He scores goals. He always has done for Rochdale. He's now our leading goal scorer of all time. Yeah. So he's a real cult hero at the football club. But it's more the options around him that are leading us to the position we're in. I think we're trying to adopt a style of trying to play out or playing a bit of target man as well, trying to switch it up, but we just haven't really got the options to facilitate what we do, and the players that go out on the pitch just don't seem interested. I mean, supposedly most of these players are meant to be Football League standard. I think a lot of them wouldn't look amiss in the National League North, if I'm honest, but there you go.
Yeah, I suppose the danger is if you go down as well. I mean, this season, you'd imagine 2 of Notts County, Chesterfield and Wrexham are going up, but if only one of those goes up, you've then got 2 teams you're up against next season in the division below. And it just, I mean, look, you only have to look at Oldham and what's happened to them.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think you'll hear any Rochdale fan say that if we get relegated, we're going to come straight back up. Because
we thought the same last season, to be fair. If we'd gone down, we were exactly the same. Like, if we go down, we're going to be down there for a while. So, yeah.
We haven't got that rich investor. We don't draw the crowds, and we can't. And I think at this day and age, there's just as much money in the National League as there is in League Two.
Probably more.
Probably, because there's probably less, rules and guidance on it so they can work a way around it. I mean, I know it doesn't sound very positive, but. Yeah, it's a very, very tough time at the moment.
Who are the other key men to look out for in your squad? And obviously, you've I mean, disparaging maybe being a bit harsh, but you've been very clear that there's not a huge amount of quality there. I mean, one who's always stood out for me, actually, in the last few games against you is Liam Kelly. He looks a quality little player the few times I've seen him, but he's not the biggest. And is he maybe the kind of player you need in a scrap down near the bottom?
Exactly. I think he was brought in with the mentality last season that we were going to be pushing towards the top end of League Two. That's obviously not been the case. But no, on his day, he can be a very good player. He's got that higher proven pedigree. He's played in the Championship with Reading. He's actually played in Holland for Feyenoord as well. So he has got that quality in front of him. Clearly, but it's the players around him that are going to feed off it. I just think that there's such a mismatch in the team. I honestly can't tell you anybody else who's a danger man, because on the day it could be something and nothing out of anybody.
I mean, Quickly looked good against us back in September. I mean, you guys probably a little bit lucky not to beat us that day.
Like I say, when that happened, we brought Quigley, and like I was saying, we've had like little good moments. When Quigley first came in on loan, he was a revelation. He was an
absolute nuisance on his debut against us. He really was.
Yeah, and he held the line so well. I remember a few weeks later, we beat Barrow at home, and he was so instrumental. So up for it, playing really well. We were getting goals, and that's when we felt like, oh, this is the turning point. We're starting to play some good football now. I reckon we can push away from this. We decided to play him in a. I forget what the format of it's called now, but I'm going to call it the Johnston's Paint Trophy, because that's what I remember it.
The pizza trophy. The one no one cares about.
Yes, we decided to play him in a nothing game against Salford. Yeah. He pulled up with an innocuous injury, nobody around him. He's then come back into the 11 since then, and he just looks like he's treading mud. I don't know if he's not interested. It was very weird, the other week when we played Bradford and we won. It was noted that he didn't even come over to the fans. He just walked off. No, nothing. So I don't know what's going on there. But since his injury, he's not been the same player since he's come back into the 11.
Yeah, it kind of feels like one of those players Stockport would recall and probably sell to someone when they just
probably, yeah.
They've got enough players on their books, haven't they? But there you go. You mentioned Jim Bentley before. I'll just bring it back to him. Right man for the job. I mean, I suppose his hands have been pretty tied, haven't they? I guess, and it's one of those questions: is who could you get? Who's better? Who's actually out there and available? That's the challenge, isn't it? I guess
the challenge is, like I say, if you read by all accounts, we've got no money. We're in pretty dire straits. Jim Bentley, yes, in the sense that he's worked at Morecambe, a similar size club to us. Budget and everything will be very similar. I don't know if he's. I don't know. I think it's just a very hard environment to judge because, from what I can understand, is he wants to rip out most of this squad and bring in his own players, but none of them will leave. So he can't get anybody in until anybody leaves, really. So he's very much, hands tied behind his back. It's very hard to say whether he is or isn't the man for the job. I mean, I have woken up this morning to hearing a lot of shouts off people to bring Keith Hill back for another stint, but I don't even think Keith Hill would save this mess at the moment.
I mean, you'd argue he's a bit of a busted flush now because he's had those 3 separate spells at what was it, Bolton, Tranmere, and Scunthorpe, where it just hasn't gone. I mean, arguably Tranmere went well for him, but even they got rid of him, didn't they? They
exactly.
were doing well, so well, it tells you what you need to know there. Let's talk. I mean, I had a look beforehand, trying to see what links there were between the two clubs and the squads, and surprisingly, for once, I don't think there's a single player in either squad who has played for the team. Having had a look through, but then of course, I remember the fact that there's the man in the hot seat at Brunton Park, Paul Simpson. Now, very much seen as a hero, a god amongst men at Brunton Park. Probably not quite as fondly remembered as a manager, at the very least, at Rochdale. On reflection, I suppose, looking back, it was probably. I think it's interesting because when he first came back in, he did a fans forum and he talked about his time at Rochdale, and he admitted he shouldn't probably have had the job then. He said it was too early. He didn't even really want to apply for it. He was encouraged to apply for it by the Rochdale board. And
oh God, yeah.
There's a really, I'll try and dig it out and send it to you, but he was very positive about, Rochdale as a club. But he's like, look, I probably shouldn't have had that job. It was the wrong time. And he wasn't even looking for a manager's job when he came to us. He just wanted to play again. What's sort of, I suppose, your memories? I get that FA Cup run's probably the biggest thing from his time at Scotland.
That's probably, I mean, not to be harsh to him, that's probably the only highlight I remember of Paul Simpson. We were pretty poor that season when he was in charge. And I remember little memories of him being a player, and he was an okay player for us. He was okay, but that doesn't surprise me. I can fully understand the fact that the board pushed him into a decision like that, probably looking for a cheaper option to bring in. But look, he's working. He has worked wonders for you. Worked wonders for you last season. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how we came away from that game last season at your place with nothing. I was.
Oh no, we didn't deserve anything from it. We were awful. Well, not awful, but we very much rode our luck in that game. It's fair to say. And then when we went down to your place, you quite comfortably beat us. But then we had Corey Whelan played in midfield that day, and he's not a midfielder, to put it bluntly. So, yeah. And
I think it's hard to judge this game as well coming up now. I think we were a different kind of opposition at the start of the season when we played you. We were on that new manager bounce and things were looking good. I don't know what 11 we're going to be putting out on Saturday because both of our centre halves have now got sent off over the weekend. Wow. So there you go. I think it's going to, without sounding completely negative, it should probably be a resounding victory for Carlisle.
Well, it's interesting because we've strengthened our attacking options in the last week or so. I mean,
great.
Kristian Dennis, obviously second top scorer in the league. And he's I say he's from Daniel. I think he's from Stockport, actually. So he's great in Manchester area, at least, anyway. But Joe Garner's the big one who's come back for us. And he's, it's his fourth spell with us. He had 2 separate loan spells, obviously signed permanently originally, but he's back from Fleetwood. So their fans were quite disappointed to see him leave. They felt he should have got more game time. So we're quite excited to see how well he does this time round. But yeah, we're in a position where we're starting to get a few players back from injury, and it doesn't sound great for you guys in that sense. But there you go. I mean, we're playing Hartlepool in midweek, so by the time everyone listens to this,
do us a favour, please.
Yeah. I think some of our fans will be quite happy to do that because obviously their manager's Keith Curl, who was in charge of us.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So yes, anyway. Tom, I've taken up quite a bit of your time here. Thank you very much. But before we finish, dare I ask you for a prediction for this game?
3-1 Carlisle.
I think you might only be the second person this season to predict a win for us in this bit. I think quite a lot have gone for draws, which is quite accurate because I think we've drawn not 9 games this season. So that's fair enough. But yeah, I think you're the first person possibly to go for a win for us. So,
just to add as well, and if that result, well, I think if any form of that result comes out, I think I'm not sure if you're going yourself, but it'll be one toxic atmosphere in the ground.
I'll certainly be coming. I'm coming along because I live in Liverpool, so it's quite a short
fair
drive.
enough.
It's a nice, easy game for me to come to. But yeah, Tom, thanks so much for your time, and genuinely all the best to Rochdale for the rest of the season. Because I think I speak on behalf of pretty much all Carl fans saying it is one of our favourite away days. It's a great day out. I mean, for me, going to Manchester for you doing is get the train up, get myself to the cemetery pub and have a few there, maybe a chippy from behind the away end. It's a proper English football day out, and it would be a crying shame if you guys went down to the National League.
Oh, no. Well, thank you very much. And obviously, best of luck to yourselves for the rest of the season as well.
Cheers, Tom. Okay, thanks once again to Tom for giving up his time. And I really did. I mean, after this weekend, I really do hope that things pick up for Rochdale, because we've said this before, haven't we, Dan? It is probably one of the, outside of going down to London, going to Orient, those kind of ones. It's probably one of the best away days in the league, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cracking day out. That trip to the cemetery pub, chippy behind the away end, a good away end alongside the pitch as well. You get a good view there, which you don't get at a lot of clubs, do you? You get stuck in rubbish stands behind the goal and in the corner, not to mention other teams. Whereas here, we've got a full stand that holds, 3,000 fans. So with 1,100 sold already, I mean, it's going to be pushing 1,500 at least, I think, isn't it? It's probably going to be the biggest away following the season so far, I would have thought, for this one. So there you go. Referee for this one, Ross Joyce from North Yorkshire. It is 8th season in the EFL. He's taken charge of 17 games so far this season, handing out 50 yellows and 3 red cards. Last season, he handed out 113 yellows and 8 red cards in 37 games. Very red card happy, isn't he? Head-to-head record. It's going to be the 110th meeting between the two sides. And I believe I checked this with Jeff Jackson, Dan, and he needs to have a quick checking about. We're fairly certain Rochdale are the team that we've played the most times now. So I think 190.
With the likes of Darlington and that disappearing now, they probably are.
Yeah. I mean, Hartlepool is second with 109, which was the game that's just gone. So
yeah,
it's very
Jeff
close.
went on about this last week.
Yeah. So it's 110th meeting between the two sides. So the team we played the most in our history. We're just ahead, 45 wins compared to Rochdale's 41, with 23 games ending in draws. I mean, Rochdale, Dan, like Tom was saying there, they're just a mess in terms of, COVID's hit them so badly. They've had the issues off the field with the hostile takeover, which they managed to see off. They've tried to do the fan ownership thing, and it is proving a struggle. So they're looking for potential investors to come in now and help out. Summer signings just didn't work out. It's not a great time to be a Dale fan, is it?
No. I mean, they had a lot of ownership struggles, the COVID thing. They're just struggling full stop. It can't be much fun, and you really hope Rochdale stay up, because they're one of these what I call proper clubs. Yeah, they're small, but they know what they are. They've got a proper fan base. We lost Darlington, we've lost York, Hartlepool have up and downs. We don't need to lose another one like Rochdale.
They've been in the league since 1921. They were in the league 7 years before we even joined it. So they're a proper established EFL club. They've not been relegated or elected out in their history. So really hope that history isn't made this summer. I really hope that it's a continuation for them. I mean, looking through the squad, Dan, I don't really fancy their chances of staying up, to be honest, because there's not much quality in there, is there?
They seem to rely on Henderson, don't they?
Yeah, Henderson's goals is what really they're relying on, isn't it, in terms of him chipping in with goals. And that might be the thing that does keep them up, because they know he's going to chip in with a few.
They had that win at Bradford the other week, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which shows, as bad as they've been, they can notch a result now and again.
They're not,
which will hold them in good stead, I think.
I did say to Tom, don't worry, you're not at Scunthorpe levels of bad. but he wasn't 100% convinced. He still thinks they're not particularly great. So yeah, it's a real worry for them. I mean, you only have to look at defence. There's a major issue there in terms of number. I mean, the problem is they can't get players in because they haven't got any money, and they've got a few players in there allegedly on quite big wages, apparently.
Yeah.
And there was a rumour about the lad Cameron John that he's on $2,500 a week, possibly.
Jeez.
Which is astonishing, because I don't think even we've probably got a player on $2,500 a week. That's how big a wage that is. So yeah, they're in a bit of a struggle this weekend. Ebanks Landell and Sam Graham, basically, arguably their two best centre backs, are both suspended because they got sent off in the 2-0 defeat at Hartlepool, which means, I mean, I'm looking here.
That's not what you want when you're coming up against a team who are free scored like ourselves, isn't it?
I'm looking at Jim McNulty's listed as being in the squad. I don't think he featured against Thing. I'm not sure he's featured much at all this season for them. And he's an experienced lad. He's 37 now, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not involved, and they might be struggling to put a defence out. They might be putting midfielders into defence this week. This could be in the harshest way possible, this could be a good opportunity for us to potentially,
especially for the goal difference.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing you're looking at. You think maybe we can put a few goals on them in, possibly. Yeah, it's not nice, I know, but sometimes you've just got to be cruel to be kind, haven't you? You've just got to get your results and not really worry about anything else. I mean, I'm looking here, actually, just checking Jim McNulty here. He's featured 9 times this season, so he's clearly not a regular start at the age of 37 now. Had a good career on him, to be fair. He's been out, Scunthorpe, Barnsley, Tranmere, some decent clubs. So yeah, that it'll be interesting to see whether he does feature at the weekend or whether maybe he's got an injury or not. I don't know. Wasn't even on the bench for the game against Hartlepool. But yeah, it does feel like they're lacking a bit there. They've got Ethan Browley, who's the young lad who's impressed there. He's been targeted by Sheffield United. There's rumours that Sheffield United are interested and don't really want him to be involved at the moment for them, which is a mad situation for them to be in as well.
Yeah, it's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Little Liam Kelly in midfield. I say little because he's only about 5'1", isn't he? 5'2" tall. He looked really good against us in a couple of games, but there's rumours that he maybe isn't the best person around the club and he wants to get out as well. It's not a great place to be. Scott Quigley was one of Sue Calls. He impressed against us in the reverse fixture, didn't he? But he's not quite hit the heights since then, unfortunately for them. Well, shall we do a predictions then, Dan? I was going to talk about Jim Bentley there, but I mean, he's just got a tough task at the end of it. I don't think there's a huge amount else he could really do there at the moment. What are you going to go for on this one then, Dan, prediction-wise?
Solid 3-0 win. Kristian Dennis. An Owen Moxon 25-yard free kick. And Jordan Gibson.
Okay. Right, I'm going to do Mike's first and then I'll do mine. So here's Mike's prediction.
So I'm going to go for a 4-0 win where Dennis will score, Moxon will score, Huntington will score, and Garner will score.
Nearly I went for the same as you there in terms of scores. Right. I have one of my most vivid early memories of going to a Carl away game. You know which game I'm going to talk about here, Dad, don't you? Is Rochdale 6, Carl United 0. Right, Dan, for mine, okay? I'm going to go back and think about one of my first, most early, vivid memories of a Carl United away game. And you know which game I'm going to talk about here, don't you? Yeah. Rochdale 6, Carl United 0. Let's flip it on its head. Carl United are going to win 6-0 in this game, right? So I'm going for a Kristian Dennis hat-trick, Jordan Gibson, John Mellish will get one, and who else? Joe Garner, why not? Joe Garner will get one off the bench as well. So there you go. That's what I'm going for. 6-0 win with those scores. Right, well, let's bash through the Barrow a bit then, Dan. Obviously, this is going to be the midweek game. Hopefully a big crowd for this one. That's what we're hoping for, isn't it? Mm. Up on the Hartlepool one, which over 5,000 is a great effort, to be fair, though, for a midweek game. Referee for this, Andrew Kitchen from County Durham. It is second season in the EFL. He's taken charge of 20 games this season, handing out 45 yellows and 1 red card. Last season, he handed out 69 yellows and 2 red cards in 29 games. The last United game he took charge of was the 1-1 draw with Swindon Town early this season, in which Owen Moxon was booked for the Blues. Head-to-head wise, it's a 66 meeting between the two sides, which is quite good considering, we hadn't played them in 50-odd years until recent seasons. 25 have been Carlisle wins, 22 wins for the Bluebirds, and 18 have been a draw. Fair to say Barrow have exceeded expectations this season, Dan?
Definitely. They've started well. They've climbed the heights, but they've struggled a little bit recently. But they do chuck in the odd decent result, don't they?
I mean, they won 3-2 at Mansfield recently. That's their first... they've only won 1 win. So won 1 game in the last 7.
That was after being 2-0 down as well.
Yeah, so they came back from 2-0 down. But, Mansfield are a weird club this season. They're in terms of their transfer dealings and what's happening there, it kind of feels like they were almost thrown in the towel a bit, haven't they? They've just gone...
Yeah, it's almost as though last season was the chance.
Yeah, and they're sort of thinking, right, we're going to rebuild for next season now, rather than actually having a good go at it. It's a really strange one, what's going on there. But yeah, as you mentioned, they've had a little bit of a struggle. When we previewed this game before Christmas, we sort of said, didn't we, that we felt... in fact, I can't remember if we actually did previous one. I think me and Mike previewed, actually. We were saying that we felt the squad was a bit short. But they seem to have sort of sorted that, haven't they, in January a little bit? They've brought a few players in, and a couple of the loanees have come back in, Joe Grayson and Mark Ellis as well. So, what do you think of their January additions so far?
Just getting them up. Newbie, yeah. Jake Young, yeah. Rory Feely from Ireland, yeah.
Feely looks like one that's a potential signing, isn't it? It's signing based on his future potential. Of course, if those who don't realise it, the name sounds familiar, that's because his brother Kevin Feely was on loan with the Blues. Sorry. 2 appearances, was it, I think? He wasn't a 1-game wonder, was he?
No.
Sure he made 2, I think. 1 at Bradford and 1 against Coventry. We lost 4-0 or something, I think. He was dire, to be fair. That's all we remember about him. Not a great player. In terms of January additions, they brought a few extra players in to bring a bit more bulk to the squad. Still, I do feel like they are punching a little bit above the weight, and they're sort of relying on 2 or 3 players who've excelled. And I think your likes of your Neil, Whitfield, and maybe Gordon up front are the ones really have sort of kicked them on to be up there, haven't they? Still possibly a little bit dodgy in goals. Farman's not been, he's been making more and more mistakes as seasons go by.
The very Marmite on him, the fans, aren't they? I've seen online. Some seem to hate him, others don't mind him. So
interesting to see how he gets on going forward, because they don't really have. Josh Lillis, the backup keeper, is actually the goalkeeper coach, isn't he? So not really one they want to use that often. No. I don't think. Obviously in terms of the last time out, when we were originally supposed to play them, they were coming off the back of a 5-0 defeat at Stevenage. This time they did a little bit better against a team up near the top. They drew 0-0 at Leighton Orient. Although Leighton Orient dropped off a bit, haven't they? If you look at their recent form, it's not great. And, I thought they were out of reach, but they may well be catchable. The way it's going. It's interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, in terms of ex-Blues in the squad, you've got Paul Farman, Patrick Buff, Connor Brown, as I mentioned already, and Richie Bennett obviously is there as well. He's the big target man up there for them, but he hasn't featured that much. He's been out injured for a lot of the season, hasn't he? It's been a bit of a struggle to get him fit for them. Let's talk about United. Mark Ellis. Well, sorry, I forgot the fact that he's back from his loan as well. So 5 in total. Let's talk about United going into these games then, Dan. Just stick with what you got, isn't it? Surely you don't change the 11.
It depends on Saturday, obviously. At the moment, no, the team's picking itself. Yeah, but there is that thing of maybe freshening up a little bit. You maybe give Patrick a start and Gordon from the subs bench, or
maybe you play Gordon against Rochdale, use Patrick against Barrow possibly, or something like that. Change it up.
I think like I said a couple of times recently, I think we'll see that interchanging a lot.
Yeah, I think you'll start to see it in the next few weeks when the games start going a bit more thick and fast. But there you go. And obviously you don't really change the bench much at the moment, do you? You kind of feel a bit for your likes of your Barkley and your Harris and your Show Silver. Been useful players, but at the moment there's just no place for them. Just the bench looks as strong as it has done for a long time at the moment. It really, really does. Okay, we'll do predictions for this one, Dan, then as well. Obviously, in terms of prediction points, I should say we all gained another point because we all did the obvious thing of picking Kristian Dennis, as we have done again this week. What are you going to go for the Barrow game?
Well, it's 8-0 for me.
Go on, let's just score
Dennis 2, Gibson, Moxon.
That's 4.
Callum Guy with a rasping 25-yard drive.
5.
Huntington's due a header.
Yeah, 2 more.
Joel Senior can have one.
Oh, go on.
And then Garner from the bench.
There you go, 8-0 for Dan. Wow. Right, I'll do Mike's next then. So this is Mike's prediction for Barrow.
And for Barrow, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win with Dennis and Moxon scoring.
Okay. I'm going to go for 3-1 for this one. Dennis, Callum Guy, and Paul Huntington header. There you go, 3-1. Right, X-File section done. Not a huge amount to cover, but some interesting ones in it. I have missed a transfer off here, I've just realised, but we'll touch on that one last probably. So if you want to go,
quiet with games off all over the country. But we go to the land down under to begin.
Yeah,
Zach Clough scored for Adelaide in the 1-0 win over Macarthur to start the weekend. Sam Cosgrove kept Plymouth on top of League One, netted in the 4-2 win over Cheltenham. Aaron Hayden got a last-minute injury time winner, his 11th league goal of the season.
It's incredible.
As Wrexham beat Maidstone 3-2.
And he's not even top scorer for Wrexham. He's like third top scorer, which is crazy.
Then on to midweek. Nathaniel Knight Percival scored for Kidderminsters in the 1-0 win at Curzon Ashton. Yeah. And keeping it local, Dave Simonton got another brace for Workington in the 3-1 win at Moseley. So, as we mentioned recently, Simonton got married and all he's done since is score goals. So.
He's enjoying himself.
Transfer news. Former keeper Morgan Bacon. This is a weird one, this.
Yes, I can't work
this
out.
Signed for Buxton on a joint reg with Glossop North End and Wivenshaw Town. So absolutely no idea how that works.
So who are his parent club? Is it Glossop or is it Wivenshaw? Is it in Buxton are the highest of the three, aren't they? They're in National League North. Yeah. So and Glossop and Wivenshaw is working to
one that happened just after we recorded last week. Yeah. David Amu left Stevenage and joined Crewe until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Former trialist Kwame Thomas, who was at Sutton, has joined Dundee on loan for the rest of the season.
It must be depressing being a Dundee fan watching your club signing players on loan, because obviously Joe Grayson, who's at Barrow, has gone back to Barrow from his loan. He was on loan at Dundee from Barrow, so yeah. Wow. And former trialist Cameron Thompson signed for Dulwich Hamlet. When did we have him on trial?
The other year. Was it either last summer or the summer before?
God, I genuinely don't remember him.
Yeah.
That's a strange one we missed out, Dan, and I forgot to put in. Former loanee, Tyrese Omatoya.
Oh, yes.
I must have a terrific agent, because he signed for Forest Green Rovers on a permanent deal from Norwich City. Their manager probably got sacked a couple of days later.
Well, the manager got sacked, and they've just announced Big Duncan Ferguson is the new first team coach.
Imagine the first sight he has of Tyrese Omatoya in training.
Yeah.
he won't be standing for that if he plays the way he did for us.
Not at all.
But there you go. Well, there you go. That's the X-Files wrapped up, and that's this week's episode wrapped up, Dan. Thanks very much for joining me as usual. I remember to say thank you this time. No one got in touch to say whether they listened to the very end to confirm if I did.
No, they don't, obviously.
Yeah, clearly don't listen to.
I'll be honest. I usually log off the recording when the music's up and done. So.
Yeah, because you're in a hurry, aren't you? Just to get something.
Yeah. So I'm doing that today now. So
exactly,
jog on.
Exactly. I know. Regular episode back next week. We're going to record a special early in February that you're doing a bit of research into at the moment, aren't you, Dan? To get us ready for that. And that's it for now. So thanks very much for everyone for joining us. And up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
All are united between us.